Welcome everybody to the Collier County Democratic Party's candidate spotlight. This evening we have a spotlight on our State House District 80 candidate, Ms. Laura Novosad. Laura actually entered the race a couple of weeks before the filing deadline, and we were really pleased to have her enter the race because we looked into Ms. Novosad's background and saw that she has a lot to offer to her district. So we're very honored to have her run. So Laura, thank you for running, and also thank you for being with us this evening. If you look at Ms. Novosad's district, it's actually, it covers 2 counties. It entirely covers Hendry County, and it covers kind of northeastern Collier County. So this district is a rural district, has a lot of farmland. It includes LaBelle and Clewiston, Felda, in Hendry County, and then in Collier County, it includes Immokalee, Ave Maria, and Orange Tree. It also has a little bit of the coast of Lake Okeechobee and a lot of agriculture, as I said. So this is Laura Novosad's district, State Rep House District 80. And if you would like to go on Laura's website, I suggest you do so. It's a great website, and you learn a lot about the issues that she really cares about and wants to represent you on in Tallahassee. So novosadforflorida.com is that website. And so Laura, thank you for being with us this evening. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you very much for having me, Anissa. It's an honor to be here, and an honor to ask me to run. So I blame you for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. District 80 is an amazing district. It is. It's a big district. It's not the largest House district out there, but it's extremely rural. So you have a lot of people in your district that are working in agriculture, a lot of industries in your district, a lot of shipping by freight truck going in and out of your district, and obviously you have a little bit of the coast of Lake Okeechobee. So it's an extremely interesting district. So how about just giving us a little bit of information on who is Laura? Who's Laura Novosad?
Hey everybody, my name's Laura Novosad, and I am a candidate for Florida House District 80, which covers Hendry and mostly all of Hendry and the eastern side of Collier. And I am running today because I've been seeing a lot of disparities happening in our government, and it's very concerning to me. So I wanted to take an opportunity to talk to everybody and let them know why I decided to run. And to tell the truth, it's generally not in my nature to run for office. I've never done anything like this before. I actually asked Jennifer to run several times. But it all started with an email from Anissa, and she wanted to ask me who was going to run. And I started looking around and trying to help with that process. And I didn't find anyone. And in the end, I thought, well, why not me? Anissa asked me, and I thought about it, and you know, why not? Why not me? So, well, I'm out here, and I'm running for office, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I grew up in a pretty large family here in Florida. I have 4 brothers, and I spent my entire childhood fighting for my piece of the pie, literally. I had 4 brothers. Don't say anything more than that. And when my dad lost his job when we were growing up, we struggled. But there were programs in place that helped us. There were food stamp programs, there was unemployment programs, and we got back on our feet. And so those programs I see that sustained us are now falling away. And additionally, you know, my mother suffered from mental illness, and that always kept us struggling. So I spent my whole childhood struggling to just keep our heads above water, and it helped us a lot. It taught us the value of work. It taught us how to stretch the dollar, and it taught us many things that has sustained us in life. So those experiences that I had, even though I wasn't able to go to college right out of high school, eventually I did get the courage, and I did go through college. And we all, you know, it was great to put out and get an education so I could show my daughters how important it was. And so when I was younger, I worked as a house painter. I used to paint houses, and I got my license for contracting in painting. And but then when I became a mother, then I didn't want to do anything but be a mother. So but since I have been married, I've done a lot of different jobs, including when I wasn't working, I built 2 houses as owner builder. And I took the education I learned and put that to work, and always trying to benefit my family and put food on the table in any way I could help. I feel that that today we need change in Florida. We need to provide families with the Medicare and the job security that they need to thrive. They need a path to a better future. And that today those institutions that helped us are now under attack. And we see a lot of instability in families, and the family institution is falling away. So we need new programs like fair housing and extended affordable health care. We need job security for those, and an unemployment system that works for people and not against people. We need families that have been further impacted with our educational systems, and they continue to fail our most vulnerable. So there are many things that we can do to help families, but you know, together, me and my husband, I've been married for 38 years to the same guy, and he's a wonderful man. I love him dearly. And we started with nothing. We had absolutely nothing, but it was the hard work that we made, the good decisions that we made that allowed us to live the comfortable life that we live now. And I'm hoping that we can continue that pattern for our families here in the state of Florida. So we're in the midst we're in the midst of this pandemic, and we could help families today, right today, by doing so much more. Expansion of Medicaid, fixing our unemployment system to make it easier for them. So I would like to ask you to vote for me, and I will close later. But thank you very much for having me on today, and I hope I won't let
you bring up a really good point. You know, you have in House District 80, you have basically an absent state rep. He's running for Congress right now, way outside of your district. He hasn't really done a lot to help the people of your district hang on to Medicare, hang on to unemployment benefits, hang on to the things that people need to make a good life. So when people are struggling, that their government actually helps to get them back on their feet so that they can be important members of their community and productive members of their community. That's something that your current House rep really has fought against, I'm going to go ahead and say. So let's start with COVID-19. You know, COVID-19 kind of brought to light a lot of things that are wrong with the system. People that maybe weren't paying attention to what was happening in Tallahassee before are now seeing, as we peel away the layers to that, how dysfunctional things are in the state legislature, of course, in the governor's mansion as well. What are your comments on how the state and the governor has responded to COVID-19, and what would you like to see your state representative do from District 80? How would a state representative be able to represent, you know, the people of District 80 better?
Okay, that's really a 2-part question. So let me just talk about COVID-19 first. COVID obviously has impacted everyone. You know, our lives have been turned upside down. And I do feel that the response within the state of Florida to COVID has pretty much mirrored and tried to support our president's response to COVID, instead of really looking at the science that's been put out there. The CDC put out guidelines for us to reopen. First of all, the state of Florida shut down later than it should have, number one. So we were behind the 8 ball there. Then it opened too early, not following the guidelines. The guidelines clearly state that there should be declining numbers consistently over a period of time to the point that they are at near zero. That's in the wording, the verbiage, near zero. And yet we opened with, you know, still hundreds of people being diagnosed with COVID on a daily basis. And now we're over 11,000 a day. We're consistently over 10,000 every day, and we're nowhere near zero numbers. And so I had spoken with a gentleman at the health department out in Immokalee and asked him what was needed. And he said, we need more rapid testing kits where we can get the testing and find out if someone has a problem within a 15-minute or 20 half-hour window, something like that. So that, we don't have that. We need more contact tracing to make opening better. We really don't have enough people. If you look at the numbers to do contact tracing, I mean, 10,000 people a day, and each person maybe has contact with 20 people. That's 20,000 people every day we're supposed to contact and find out if they had COVID and get them isolated. It's unsustainable. And I think our governor not requiring us at this point to wear a mask and supporting the efforts to wear a mask is a mistake on his part. And I would personally like to see us going backwards on these opening regulations. We need to fall back. You know, we're in a war here. We need to fall back. Second part of your question was about Byron Donalds, who is our former state rep in this position. And I would be very different from him. Number one, I am not going to take any special interest money. I was looking over, he was an NRA supporter. He took money from them and voted every time that he could to support advancement of NRA's policies. I would not. I'm an advocate for gun safety and bringing in sensible gun laws to our state, and even doing buyback programs. He was also, he voted to have young girls get permission from their parents before they could get an abortion, and I'm very much against limiting access to reproductive rights. And so I would be very different in every instance on that, where we're looking at women's issues. And he voted against the, keeping the ERA out there. He also went and attacked our Citizens Initiative and put in higher regulations and make it more difficult for us to get initiatives on the ballot, which, for the last 20 years has been our main path to getting what the citizens are requesting on the ballot. He also voted to limit the felons' rights to vote, making them have to come forward and pay past fines. So in every instance, I can see where I would be very different from our past. Plus, I'd be present. I'd be here. So I'd go to your meetings. I'd attend your functions. I would have town halls and have opportunities for people to tell us what's going on so we can listen to their concerns.
Fantastic. We need someone who is present and who's able to listen to their community and respond to the people's needs. So that I'm so happy that you're running. So thank you for running. If I haven't already said that, thank you for running. It's great to have someone who understands the issues and who would be a positive voice for the people in Tallahassee. Healthcare is a big part of how people spend their money right now, for-profit healthcare systems. And of course, when the Affordable Care Act was passed, there was a provision for states to expand Medicaid, but the state of Florida hasn't done that. Would you vote to expand Medicaid, and why? Why should the state of Florida do that?
Well, absolutely, I would vote to expand Medicaid. Right now, there is a disparity of, there's about 800,000 people which are kind of stuck in a gap between able to afford health care and those that are able to get it through Medicaid due to income. So we could provide health care to those people immediately by expanding. Right now, we're one of only 13 states in the whole of US that has not expanded Medicaid, which is a real testimony to how important the Affordable Care Act is, into how much good it is doing. So absolutely, I would vote to expand that. And I would, I'm a believer in that healthcare is a right. And we look forward to Obama, having his programs succeed and be continued.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point that there are very few states who haven't done this, and they're actually the whole premise, right, is to get this money from the federal government to help us pay for health care for these 800,000 people that live in Florida. Of course, that's our money. That's our money that we sent to Washington, D.C. in a form of tax, right? And so we're basically saying, yeah, we want our money back to help our populace. It's interesting that Kentucky has expanded Medicaid, and they're doing extremely well there, even though Mitch McConnell was against it. So let's move on to public education. I know public education is something that is near and dear to you. What do you think about the state of the public education system in this state, and what would you do in Tallahassee to either support what's happening or change what's happening now?
Okay, so you kind of broke up on that question. So could you repeat it?
Yes. So the state of our public education, as a representative in House District 80, you'll have the option to vote for and against bills for public education. What do you think we're doing right in the state of Florida, and what would you change?
Okay, so public education is very dear and dear to me. When I did go to college, I got a degree in education, and I taught in the public school system in Collier County for a couple of years. So I understand that it was a very difficult job. You know, we were underfunded and understaffed. And I think what the state is doing right now is they did pass a bill that's going to raise teacher pay significantly. It's going to make a difference. So we need to continue those reforms of bringing education back to the forefront, and public education needs to be our main focus. 96% of students in Florida are in public schools. So why aren't they our main focus right now? What I think they're doing wrong is I think there's too much emphasis put on the charter schools and funding of charter schools. The way they were set up originally, the voucher program was set up to help a few children who were not thriving in a public situation, a public school situation, to meet their special needs. And the system that was set up originally is being abused now. I was looking a lot into that today, and we need to stop the for-profit. You know, if they can get for-profit out, we could be fine. But they've been set up as a ruse. You know, they start off as their nonprofit school, and then they have a parent company that they pay most of the money to, that is to manage them, and it is for-profit. So I think some of the things that we could do better, obviously, is qualified teachers. I know here in Hendry County, there's a great deal of teachers, and I don't have the exact figure, but I hear it from the parents that I know whose teachers are not qualified, and they're basically permanent substitutes because they're having difficulty passing a state test. And either the test is urgently too hard, or we need to find people who can pass a test to teach. I do also think that the Hendry County has put in a program where you can, if you're a teacher, you can carry a gun in school. And this is a real issue because children find it upsetting to, you know, go into a classroom and see someone carrying a gun. And I think it's a big mistake. I think it's led a lot of people to take their children out of public school here in Hendry and choose to homeschool instead. So I think we also need to have funding for arts, and we need to have funding for extracurricular activities and for the band music programs. And with this money, you know, we don't see equality between the type of education you would get in a charter school as opposed to what the public schools have to provide and share. So I think we need a more balanced, if we're going to continue with charter schools, we need more balance. But it's going to be very difficult for the state of Florida to fund two types of school systems. And it's pretty much, it's going to be extremely expensive if that goes forward like that. So I'd like to see, you know, the charter schools melt away, so to speak.
Okay. So you mentioned in your introduction, and you also mentioned a few minutes ago, guns, basically, and the fact that you would like to see sensible gun reform.
Yeah.
What kind of reforms do you think are sensible gun reforms? Obviously, we have a Second Amendment that gives people certain rights to carry firearms, but the Supreme Court has ruled that that doesn't mean everywhere and every type of gun. And now we're, as a society, we're really struggling with this,
Right.
making sure that people's rights are, that we adhere to people's rights, but also that we feel safe as a community, and that people that are qualified or, are pass a test, or, some sort of a waiting period. So what is sensible gun reform look like to you?
So I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in a right to bear arms. I grew up in a family where guns were used. My father was an avid hunter and spent a lot of time, myself personally, as a young person, out at Fish Eating Creek. Uh, uh, we hunted for food, we ate food that we hunted. But it's really gotten out of hand right now, and we have a gun culture that has led to many deaths, accidental and through gangs and other areas. So what we really need is we need to keep guns out of the hands of violent offenders and violent people, as well as people with mental illness. We need to get red flag laws in place, and also I would like to see institution of a buyback program where guns were actually, incentives were made to get guns off the streets. I don't believe in assault weapons. I was all for the assault weapons ban and helped, try to sign petitions on that. Unfortunately, didn't move forward. So those are some of the issues that I'm definitely very strong on. I'd like to see a registry. We need to know where guns are, and I'd like to close the loopholes at the gun shows.
Yeah.
And they work hand in hand. You have a police department that is trying to police and do the right thing in many cases, and they don't know if the guy behind the door has a handgun or an automatic weapon. And automatic weapons are just, weapons of war. And the more the community is militarized with weapons of war, the more the police department feels their need to be militarized with weapons of war. And we need to scale this down. We need to take away all weapons of war. There should be in war, and we don't live in a war zone, but it feels like it sometimes. Yeah.
It does. It does feel like we live in a war zone, and sometimes it's not even when you're talking about firearms. Sometimes, it comes down to equality issues. There are things in this state that we still haven't done, like we haven't passed the ERA. The ERA has not been ratified. We recently, in the state of Florida, the Supreme Court just ruled that people that are LGBTQ cannot be fired from their jobs. But that's 2020, for goodness sakes, and they're just now getting protections at work. So what do you see in terms of how we can be better as a state for people that need equal protections? What kind of issues do you think that you would be a proponent of in Tallahassee?
Well, obviously, LGBTQ rights are a big issue on my table. And I would definitely like to see the ERA passed. I believe it would bring not only rights to women, but also equality rights to the LGBTQ and other marginalized communities. So it is a very simple amendment, and it should be passed, and there's no reason why it hasn't. I would also like to see us look at the racial disparities. I mean, we still have huge racial disparities and racial inequality in this country. And in the state of Florida, we have it right here. So we need to see, more support for all people that have suffered with trying to struggle in this country for equal rights. So I would do all I can. If a bill came across my desk and it was concerned about this, I would definitely vote accordingly.
Okay. So one of the things that is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds is water quality. We live in Southwest Florida, where we have, our environment is our economy. A lot of people come here to enjoy our beautiful coast. Even now during COVID, people are coming, right? And So tourism is definitely part of our economy, but agriculture is too. And for both of those to be successful, you need a healthy environment. What are the things about the environment? What environmental issues are you going to focus on during your candidacy? And then when you get to Tallahassee, what are the things that you think we need to focus on as a state?
Well, it's a three-pronged question, really. You've got your environmental needs, and you've got water quality, I think is a big part of the environmental needs. We definitely are doing some things right. It is through the community pressure that we have seen Governor DeSantis sign a bill just this week to help start back septic system inspections. So that's a first start. But we still have lots of pollution that is happening at an industrial level. And in Hendry County, a lot of that is through the farming industry. So those people that have been polluting, they need to be held accountable, and they need to clean up what they've done. And so water, it's just such a complicated problem, but it shouldn't have to be. It shouldn't have to be, because we all need clean water, whether they're human beings or it's the animals or it's farming. Believe me, farming wants clean water too. So if you're looking at clean water and the water problems, I think we need to look at across the board. So we had the blue-green algae and the red algae blooms, and they were coming from dirty water in Lake Okeechobee, going east and then going west out of the state instead of going south from Lake Okeechobee and into what is now water-starved Everglades National Park. And so we need to continue that program of Everglades restoration that creates water ponds and retention ponds south. This will help clean the water. There needs to be a way for that water to be filtered as it goes through that system, so that when it comes out, it's cleaner than what they're getting. And then we will see, a whole huge rebirth in Everglades National Park of the birds that will come back, and all the animals across the board that thrive there. And right now it's pretty much a dead zone. So I mean, for me, my biggest issue in environmental is Everglades National Park. And we also need that water to go into Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, which over the last few years has seen a decline in water. So once again, this is a difficult question, because you also have growth. More people are coming to Florida, and you also have agriculture, which also needs the water. So we have a finite amount of resource of water that has to be spread across everybody's table. And we need all people to come to that table and do our best to make sure that the needs of all are set. So, but my choice is to send the water south, to purchase more land for conservation efforts south. And that I know that that's land that's been used for farming typically. And I believe that the farming industry will find other ways to find lands to grow food. We need to keep some land in the same question set aside, so that we don't lose all our farmland to growth at the same time. It's a very complicated question.
It is. It's a complicated question because there's so many stakeholders, and everybody benefits a little bit more than someone else depending on the way that the laws are written. And fracking is one of those things that we've been talking about in the state, and at least in Southwest Florida, fracking became almost a real danger in I think it was 2008 or so. What are your stances on fracking? Do you see fracking as a possibility? Is thumbs down? Okay.
I mean, let's just get rid of it. I mean, whatever. I mean, fracking is really dangerous, and it's dangerous in this area because our underground rock is very porous. So everybody gets their water almost in these rural areas through well systems. So it's coming right out of the ground. And in 2018, I believe, they were discussing, let's put a bill and we'll just put the dirty water back in the ground and then it'll be gone, which is another obviously just unimaginable consequences that would come from bad decisions like that. So the good part about fracking is that because of the economic downturn that we're seeing a rise in more economical, clean energy. And we're seeing with everybody staying home with this shutdown, all of a sudden oil prices tanked. They had their nice little oil war over there, which was kind of cool, to be honest. And so I'm hoping that if we can keep, oil prices super low, fracking will become a non-issue. But we still need to pass laws to make it stop.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And one of the things you said a lot of people in rural areas live on well water. They have well water. Well, the truth is, all of us have well water, whether you live on the coast of Florida or in the, in the agricultural areas. Some people happen to have a well in their backyard, but some people, when they, turn that faucet on, that utility that's supplying water to their home has a well somewhere in Florida. For us in Collier County, those wells are out in Golden Gate Estates, and fracking would basically contaminate those wells first before they contaminated the well in my backyard. So fracking is an issue that would, it's not when, it's not if, it's when, that fracking would affect our water.
And it would happen very quickly. It would happen very quickly. A few years back, they did a study. I think it was the Kool-Aid test study. Do you know about that, Anissa? Yeah. So, and they pushed into the ground up here just below the lake tons of red dye, Kool-Aid red dye, basically. And within hours, it was showing up in Miami's canals.
And now everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I know. It's pretty bad.
It really happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how fast this water system underground is moving. It's fluid.
As we clean the water and send it south, we're also recharging our aquifers. And if we expect in the state of Florida to continue to increase our population at the rate that we are, then we're going to have to protect our future water supply. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I would like to talk a little bit about how people are supposed to afford to live and work here. One of the things that was very clear to me when I was trying to find a place, a little house for myself, and I have friends who are now looking for, an apartment or a condo, and it's expensive living down here. And we have this affordable housing trust in Tallahassee that's supposed to be helping people, but it's not. So where is the disconnect? And so what are your thoughts on affordable housing and how it's being kind of implemented, and what would you do when it came to helping people and affordable housing, helping them to afford living here and working here?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. For the last 10 years or so, I've been working as a realtor, so I really care about housing and I care about getting people into housing. And I think owning your own home is the quickest and the fastest way towards families having stability. And what Sadowski, did I say it right, Anissa, Fund, was formulated about maybe 25 years back, and it is funded on a regular basis through the documentary stamp program. So when you buy and sell a house, there's documentary stamps that are paid on that, which is a tax, and part of that money goes into this fund. So it has a general revenue stream that's consistent. But for the last 17 years, that fund has been being raped by the state of Florida, and the tune of this year, $225 million out of that fund will be diverted from giving assistance to low-income families, and it'll be instead paying the light bill up in Tallahassee. So how can that fund is so important because it provided not only down payments for low-income people for them to buy homes, but also provided rent assistance for different groups of people, also provided for repairs on home. Let's say you had become disabled and you could no longer live in your home unless it was retrofitted to work with a wheelchair. Now, where will you find the money for that? Well, it was this fund that you could apply to that and get the money for those home repairs.
But it's not endangered clients.
Yeah, the fund
So
would.
this is an email confirmation of the, I have to
Hold
put
on
an
one
app to
second,
see it on
Laura.
video.
There's a
And it-
caller that just came on. If you could mute yourself, I'm going to try to mute everybody here.
But in addition, that fund would partner with developers to help purchase land at a reasonable rate so that affordable housing then could be built on that home, on that land to provide homes. And so this is a really important thing. Another thing we could do is lower impact fees. You know, we have lots of different developments here in this district that are not being utilized. We have Golden Gate Estates, which has tons and tons of undeveloped lots, which should be developed, but we've got impact fees that are astronomical, makes it more difficult. We've got also right here in LaBelle, Port LaBelle is huge, and there is thousands of lots in there that just that could be developed and provide more affordable housing. You could get a house here in LaBelle for about 150,000, brand new. So I mean, it is different, you know, different areas where everybody wants to go, then the prices go higher, and so you also need to provide jobs for people so that they can afford to live there. Collier County's got a huge problem because they've got so high on pricing, they don't have the housing to provide for police officers or school teachers or nurses or other jobs that are needed to provide for those people that need services. So
Yeah, I know that there are people that will not work. I mean, qualified, good people who will not work in Collier or Lee or parts of Hendry because the housing is so much, and they just can't afford to live there based on what they're getting paid. So yeah, I think it would be great if police officers and teachers could live and work in the communities that they serve and spend their paychecks in that community too. I think that would be great.
So last legislative session, there was a bill on the table to refund that for the state of Florida to put back into the funding the money that had taken out. So it's about $3 billion over the last 17 years that they've taken from that fund. That would go a long way in helping a lot of families be able to afford a house in Collier. And
right, yeah, and that's absolutely right. The Sadowski Fund is set up for specifically this, right? Helping people to repair their homes, especially after hurricanes, or just to make it livable if you find yourself now in a wheelchair or something. But the Sadowski Fund it's the intent. It's one of those things that we've seen from Tallahassee for so long, right? The intent is there, but there's no follow through because they just kind of sweep the money out of those special funds. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was teacher pay. Governor DeSantis, and you did touch on this. You said Governor DeSantis increased teacher pay for, now is this for all teachers or is this for first-time teachers? Do you know?
I'm not real sure. I think it also is retroactive for other teachers who've been in the program, because I could have to get back with you on that question, to be honest. But I do believe that if you are falling below what his new cap is, you'll be moved up to that cap. But I could be wrong. So
okay, so I'm going to start taking questions from the chat box. We have about 15 minutes left, but before I take questions, I did want to acknowledge Mr. Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is the chairman of the Hendry County Democratic Executive Committee. So Joe, thank you for logging on tonight. It's an honor to have you here. So let's go ahead and take some questions from the chat box. So the first question that I see from Molly Cook: the science does not support opening up our schools. What do you think should be happening in August?
I think we should not be opening. If we don't have the numbers coming down, then I think we should continue with the program that we started in March and April, May, for the end of the school year. So I think we could do more with virtual classrooms and work from home type of situations. But I think it's dangerous to put children back in schools and just assume that, you know, that they won't get sick. I mean, just a couple days ago, a little 11-year-old girl died from COVID. So, I mean, are we really risking everybody's lives? You know, how many grandmas need to die before we, I would go with no.
Okay.
You know, I think stay with the course until we follow the CDC guidelines, until we see the numbers come down to the near zero, or we get a better way, you know, we get the vaccine, that would change things. If we get the rapid testing, that would
Right.
change. That could change.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a fluid question.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Change.
So Mr. Cummings asked, there was only a 43% of Hispanic voter turnout in the 2016 election. How do you propose to increase this number?
It was a 40%, 43% across the board, or just within the Democratic Party?
I think it was across the board.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think, you know, this next election is going to, you know, increase voter turnout just because of the nature of what's happening, I would hope. And, well, I do plan on doing a lot of outreach in Immokalee and in different Spanish communities. I plan on trying to contact and get in contact with them through their radio communications. That they do a lot of radio. I do believe you do need an inroad into the community, and most Hispanic communities, from what I've observed, is that they're very tight knit, and they usually have like family parties on Saturday nights through their homes. At least they do here in this community. And I would like to get involved and visit some of them in their homes and speak more to the issues that are important to them.
Okay. So Lorraine is asking, are you saying in Florida money is taken from public schools to charter schools, private schools? It's this way in Michigan. I think she's referring to the fact when you're talking about, you were talking about funding public and charter schools concurrently. So,
Right.
yeah, are you saying Florida money is taken from public schools?
Okay, so Florida has a voucher program. I believe there's at least 2 different types of vouchers that you could get to put your kids in a different school situation for school of choice. And so the money is taken via the voucher and it follows the child. The problem is if the child doesn't thrive in that new system, they can actually be kicked out and go back to the public school system, and the money stays in that charter system. So there's no checks and balances. So you're moving money. Also, I listened into the Governor DeSantis's May cabinet meeting, which was broadcast live. And within that, Nikki Fried asked a question about the bill that was being worked up, that they're working on right now, that will enable charter schools to become hurricane shelters. And he answered her question, which was, we don't have that bill ready yet for publication, but they're looking at that. So they would take public money that they would use to build new schools, to build and to shore up charter schools so that they would be hurricane shelters. Now, whether or not that bill comes to fruition or not, I don't know, but they're talking about it. They're talking about taking public money and building private schools that are technically not for profit, but yet in many cases, most of that money is siphoned off to other companies that are for profit. And the majority of the money goes there. So I would say that's the best way I can answer that question with the knowledge I have. And when I get more knowledge, I can answer it probably fuller.
Oh, so you're one of those people, when you know better, you do better. Okay. All right. I got you. Okay.
Try and learn as much as I can about a topic. So
yeah. Our next question is something that I was curious about as well. Do you support the Black Lives Matter movement, and how do you feel about efforts to decrease police funding in order to increase funding for other community organizations instead?
I do support the Black Lives Matter movement. I have been to a Black Lives Matter rally recently. So yes, I do support the movement. I think whenever you keep people down for a long enough period of time, they're going to rise up. And we have kept people without clear paths to good jobs, good education, healthcare, affordable housing. The list goes on and on. We're taking away their voting rights. You know, we're taking away the citizens' initiatives. I mean, people are angry, and they have a right to be. As far as the police department, there is systemic racism within our police departments, and that needs to be rooted out. You know, and that needs to be rooted out with transparency, and they need to be held accountable when things happen. So we need to know if a police officer, you know, has committed or had, you know, complaints against his record. And all those fall under this big umbrella called the Police Bill of Rights. So there's this Bill of Rights that protects the police. So when someone is given a badge and then they are put out there and they have new rights, they can arrest you, they can put you in jail, but they're supposed to follow a code. And that is all laid out in that Bill of Rights. And so maybe we should look at that and revisit that and see.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we need to get back to protecting and serving, right? That's what the police is for. It's to keep the citizen safe.
This is where it goes hand in hand with the gun buybacks. You know, because police, you know, they go out and they risk their lives every day to help people. And the majority of the police do that. But we keep this escalation going. So if we could get some of those guns of war out of the hands of people, I think it would calm the police down too. And we could get into more community policing. You know, we're one of the few countries in the world where so many people die from gun violence.
Yes.
So I don't believe in entire defunding of the police department entirety. I think the police departments are important, but I do believe that we need to revisit the Bill of Rights, and we need to hold police accountable when they break laws, and we need to keep police brutality in check.
Okay. What about we're switching switching here to sustainable energy. What are your thoughts on how Florida can play an important role in sustainable energy? Is it something our state needs to do? Are we doing enough? What kind of things would you like to see on the sustainable energy front in Florida?
Well, Florida is the Sunshine State. That's our nickname, and we do have a lot of sunshine here. So, you know, we need to move towards a clean energy grid in the state of Florida as opposed to dirty fossil fuel grid. So there's different things that we can do. I'd like to see solar panels on every house. I'd like to see new construction building permits include solar and battery powered, you know, collection stations. I would like to see an energy, you know, at the turnpike, at the rest stops, we could put in stations that are solar powered that would generate electricity so you could recharge your electric vehicle. And that would go a huge long way of helping us get onto a clean energy track. So I believe in the state of Florida right now, our energy companies have lobbied very hard to try and keep people from being encouraged to put solar in. They have programs set in place that discourage that. And their buyback rates that they have for their meter rates that purchase the energy that's created on a house are much lower than they should be. So we pay right now about 11 point something cents per kilowatt hour for electricity from the power company. But if we put in a system, the buyback rate is like 2.4 cents. So then the electric companies, you know, they pretty much are managing themselves. They limit the size of the system you can put in, which doesn't account for future use. If you want to get an electric car, you're going to need a lot more power. And this is a way to keep you from reaching that point where your cost to put in the system has paid for itself. So it keeps people from utilizing what could be a quick and easy way for us to keep energy costs down, and also look for, making effects that would help us with climate change.
Oh, climate change. Yes, yes, absolutely. So we've been talking about medical marijuana in the state of Florida for a while. What is your stance on medical marijuana, and what is your stance on legalizing marijuana for recreational purposes? That's something that I would imagine that you would be handling at the state level.
Well, medical marijuana is here, so it's already happening. I mean, I can't say I'm not against it. It's for the most part, there are avenues where marijuana can help many people. Legalizing marijuana, once again, I don't think that's wrong, to be honest. We have a lot more problems with more dangerous drugs than to worry about marijuana. I think we have a lot of people incarcerated right now for silly marijuana use, and it's right now, it's pretty much legal anyway. If you just have to get a doctor's note and you get all the marijuana you want.
Right.
So, or to so why not just legalize it, make it a lot easier?
Well, and that's one of the things that is, that's where we see a lot of racial disparities, right? In the number of people who are incarcerated for possession of marijuana. You are more likely to go to jail if you are Black and have marijuana for recreational purposes than if you're white. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact. That's how racial disparities work in that sense. But so yeah, that would do a lot to even the field too, We only have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that people get a chance to hear from you basically once again to tell us why you're running. But before we run out of time, I do want to thank you for your time today. And I want to encourage people to go to your website and learn more about you and, volunteer for your campaign and get on Team Novosad, because we need people that understand the issues and are willing to listen to people in their districts to truly represent them. And that's why I'm so excited that you're running for State House District 80. So novosadforflorida.com is the website, and the election is on November 3rd. Laura does not have a primary opponent. There is a primary challenge on the Republican side, so we don't know who her opponent will be until after the August 18th primary election. But Laura's name will be on the ballot for the general election on November 3rd. So please make sure that you look for her name if you live in her district and vote for her. And also make sure that you are registered to vote by mail, because right now, with the way that we're seeing COVID numbers go up, if you can safely vote from the comfort of your home and track that ballot after you return it, that's the best way to do it. So Laura, thank you for being here, and I would love to hear from you one last time on what you'd like to see in District 80, your kind of vision for District 80, and how you as a state rep can help make that happen.
Well, my vision for District 80 is that, we flip it blue. We need to, I think we have a good chance, to be honest. We have a majority of people that are working families in this area. And so my big issue really is I'd like to see us, anybody who wants to join my campaign, I would absolutely love to have you join it. And so my vision for District 80 would be that we continue to grow sustainably, that we look for a brighter future, and we have, Everglades full of birds that are thriving, and we at the same time are producing the food we need to feed the world. So I would like to end with a small statement, and that is would be my closing, which is, folks, it's time that we take a stand in life, and there comes a time that you have to make a decision. Are you going to sit down or are you going to get up? And right now, I can no longer sit down. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to make this run for office in District 80 so that we can see change in Tallahassee. And I'm asking you as a people to stand up with me. I can't do it without your help, and I need it. So I'd like you to join me in this fight because we can all do better, and I'd like to see us do that together. We need new leadership, and I'm asking you to vote for me so that I can lead you to that better future. So vote for Laura for State House Representative 80, and I'll be honored to serve you. Thank you for your time today.
Laura, thank you so much. It was a pleasure
Thank
to
you,
have
Laura.
you with us.
Good luck. Good luck,
so much.
Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that we can do this
Thank you.
again. I think this was really, really informative for all of us. And if you have the time to do this again, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And all those people that came on, you know, I do need help. I need a fundraiser really fast. My main opponent is already putting signs up all through Collier County. And Collier County is the biggest swath of individuals. I mean, Hendry County altogether is about 45,000 people who will, in population. Yet my part of Collier is over 100.
yeah,
So Collier is a big part of that. So
novosadforflorida.com, right? .com. Okay, thank you so much. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe, drink water, and we'll see you all again next week when we do our candidate spotlight for Sarah McFadden.